What's cracking, guys? Bruce Mattson here, your host show of Metric Scout Fantasy Football, and ADP is out over at DynastyLeagueFootball.com, and usually when that happens for the month, I'll give you buys and sells for each position. The wide receivers are already out for the buys, so go check that out in the archives, and now it's time for me to give you my buys for the running back position. I will give you 3 guys today, and when I do this, I'm just trying to give you ideas for guys to target in trades for your leagues, and these aren't guys that are like, hey, buy now because their price is about to jump up. I literally just look through the ADP list and be like, this guy seems a little undervalued, this guy might be on the comeback, this guy's a little cheap. I try to give you a very cheap guy, middle of the road guy, and then I go from the top, one of the expensive guys. That way I pull a little bit of something for you, and obviously the expensive guys tend to be sells or tend to be guys that you're buying high on. Cheap guys are guys that you're drafting late, paying nothing for, but that's just how the trends work when guys are super expensive and guys are damn near free. That's just how that works on the market. But here are my 3 guys for this month. The first guy is uber cheap. He's coming back from an injury, very productive before. He is a veteran, but he's still only 23 years old. He still has a lot of years left in the tank. He's on a very ambiguous offense where things could change in a minute for him, but has the opportunity to be a key piece to the offense still. Even though he has some competition, he is good. We know he's good. He's proven that multiple times throughout his career. He's in his 3rd season now, and people doubting him during his rookie season. People doubted him last year. And you know what? People are probably going to doubt him this year. This is probably why you can get him so cheap. Plus the injury. The injury was a pretty big deal. But now we're seeing him come back. People are getting a little inquisitive. Price is going to jump up a little bit here soon. But you can still get him damn near free in startup drafts and the trade market. I'm talking about James Robinson from the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're starting to see some signs of life from him, that he'll be able to participate in camp this year, that he'll be playing this year on the field. Travis Etienne is the Dynasty Gamers dreamboat, but you know what? You can have your cake and eat it too and have both players. He has an ADP of 127.5, so he's about the 125th player off the board on average in startup drafts. Just round that up. RB40. He's damn near free in startup drafts. A double-digit rounder, 12-ish round, somewhere like that in your startup drafts, depending how many teams you got in your league. James Robinson, cheap asset to get, still a young running back. He's got competition. He had 6 RB1 weeks last year, 7 RB1 weeks in 2020. Had 3.9 yards after contact per attempt last season, along with 19 carries of 10 yards or more, 7 carries of 15 yards or more, 5.1 yards per touch. I like Travis Etienne, but it's hard to ignore Robinson's price right now. I feel like now that we're seeing a sign of life here, that they're talking about him participating more, that he's looking healthy, that he's looking good, that he's going to be on the field, that these two are going to be a good tandem. I like both of them. I like to have shares of both of them on my teams, and his price means I could probably have both of them. If I'm doing a startup draft today, that means I can probably pay up for Etienne, get Robinson on the cheap. I could trade for Robinson. Robinson's so cheap that it's worth it. And then again, he's still only 23 years old on a DLF trade finder. You're seeing him traded for 2nd-round rookie picks. That's the capital. It seems like it's been the sweet spot for a lot of people. 2023 3rd, Odell Beckham. 2023 2nds, Sky Moore. Feel like that's a little pricey. Adam Thielen. Christian Kirk. Jaguar on Jaguar violence there. Sony Michel plus the 3rd. That's kind of interesting. Mecole Hardman. So if you want to get rid of that Mecole Hardman share, that's an ideal for you. So there's a lot of cheap ideas that you could throw the other manager's way to get James Robinson off your roster. 2nd-round rookie pick seems to be a sweet spot. I saw multiples of those. but maybe you can try a third if you want to try and go a little cheaper. Try and play limbo with this. How low can you go? I wouldn't pay anything that's worth a first-round pick, so Sky Moore seems a little pricey to me, but maybe a guy like Christian Kirk, maybe a guy like Adam Thielen, unless you want to keep him for that short-term production, but if you need a back-end running back on your roster, you may want to look at that. Sony Michel in a third seems like the best idea there because you got a short-term running back there who give you production on the short term but has a lot of competition, plus one of your cheap picks. Throw it at it. Get James Robinson, who you know has got the talent to come back from injury. Could be a good get here at RB40 price tag. He's dirt cheap, and usually at this price point, you don't get running backs like this. I know Travis Etienne's there, but if you got one of those two, you got a decent running back on your roster that could pop for you. Robinson's popped before, and if it doesn't work out, let's say that injury just keeps popping up, or Etienne really explodes and they just let him run loose. Robinson only gets part of the workload. Say the worst of the worst happens. RB40 price tag's not going to break the bank on you. It's not going to kill you. This is not even a gamble. He's almost free. Honestly, in some trades, if you're doing a much bigger deal, you might be able to get him as a throw-in on the back end. Maybe. I think he's worth a little bit more than that. You may have to add a little bit more to it, but James Robinson is a guy you may be able to get for cheaper than what you think. Just test the market in your league. The next running back I'm about to talk about is also a veteran. He's also very cheap. He's not much more expensive than James Robinson, and he is sharing the backfield with another good running back. His contract with his current team is about to expire. He could be hitting the open market here in the next year or so. Maybe get traded this year. There has been talks about that, whether those are rumors or not. But he has proven to be a threat in the offense. He is good in the passing game. And as your RB4, RB5, a patch-up guy on your team, could be worth it to you, especially if something happens to the lead running back on the team and they have to really lean on him. He could do wonders for a team. The running back I'm talking about today is Kareem Hunt for the Cleveland Browns. Has an average draft position of 110.17, so about 110 overall, double-digit rounder, RB34. He's pretty cheap in startup draft land. Had 10 games of 15 PPR fantasy points or more in the last 2 seasons, so double-digit games there. 3.45 yards after contact per attempt. 8 yards after the catch per reception, so he's getting you chunks of yards after the catch. He ran 109 routes last season. He's used heavily in the passing game. This is where we get the gusto in his fantasy production. When we look at the DLF Trade Finder, he is about as cheap as James Robinson almost. You can trade Zach Ertz for him. We've seen Hunter Renfrow traded for him. Dawson Knox, so cheaper tight ends. Second round rookie picks seems to be the standard. We've seen him traded for IDP players. DJ Chark, Pierre Strong. So he's almost cheaper on the market than James Robinson. 1, Hunt's an older asset. 2, he's in an ambiguous situation. On the long term, he could be with a different team within a matter of weeks, days, months. We don't know where he's going to be at. He could get traded. He could be a part of the Browns forever. Hunt stated that he wanted to be with the Browns. He wanted to finish his career there. But you know, business is business. You never know what's going to happen. That's part of the reason why the market's just discounting him heavy. But I love these prices here. I think you can get him on a trade for something similar. You can get him cheaper than what he's costing at ADP on the trade market, just from looking at the trade finder. If you can't get that in your league, then it is. You just walk away. But we've seen instances here, or we got examples of him being traded for cheap, being traded just as cheap as an RB40 running back as James Robinson. Him and Hunt, they're being traded on similar waves on the trade market here. Cheaper guys that you can get who's been productive, who's proven. They got some dings on them. They got some things that you got to worry about. Hunt's sharing the backfield with Chubb. I get that. but also you're not paying much for him, and he's a freer asset. So see what you can do with him on the trade market. Kick the tires, kick the other managers in the shins if you can. See how they react to that, and we may get a free running back or a cheaper running back that may be able to help you out in a pinch in a few games of this season. He has 10 games of 15 PPR fantasy points in the last 2 years. That means he's probably going to get you 3 or 4 this season, maybe 5 or so. Who knows? He's going to get you some production. That receiving skill set that he has, his ability to get yards after the catch, the volume, the routes ran, that's going to add up. It always does. If something happens to Chubb, you're going to wish you had Kareem Hunt on your roster. And at this price tag, it's very cheap. I feel like people are going to clamor over him once we get into redraft season. They see him at a value. They're going to talk him up. Price in startup drafts, the price on the trade market is just going to creep up a little bit. So I see his value increasing. The last running back I'm going to talk about today is in a high-powered offense. I've probably talked about him on the channel a few times now. I want a lot of shares of this player. I want all the shares of this team on my Dynasty teams, really. I'm buying the team. I'm going all in on this team. And they're younger assets, too. So all the players on this team are younger, productive, explosive. And I want them, and I want to stack them, even in leagues where I got to set lineups, best ball leagues, seasonal leagues. I just want them for the short term, long term, every term I can get. The running back I'm talking about today is Joe Mixon. He's our expensive guy for the day. I always give you an expensive running back, whether it's a sell or a buy. And you can sell them and you can buy them, because expensive guys, you can do both. You're paying up and you're selling heavy. It's both. But ADP 21.83, about second round pick, RB9. I feel like this is a good value at that price point, even though it's still expensive. 1,467 rushing yards last year, caught 60 balls. Using the passing game, heavy rushing production, 3.03 yards after contact per attempt. Ran 391 routes last year, heavily using the passing game in a high volume passing offense, which is good to hear. 7.6 yards after the catch per reception. So he'll get you chunks of yards after the catch. Fact that he's on the Bengals offense, they keep the chains moving, and he's their lead running back, and they do not want to move on from him is a good sign. Once you pick him up, you know you got a few years of production. He's not going to fall off just within a few days, few months, a year or so. You know you got a good running back here for a bit. Even when he starts to slow down, the volume in the offense is going to still propel him. Joe B is going to be there. Jamar Chase is still going to be there. T. Higgins is still going to be there. His offense is going to move. He's not going to fall off of a cliff soon, so he could be valuable for your Dynasty team for a bit. The price tag's heavy. I look for him as being a buy or sell. And whatever you're paying for him, it's not going to be cheap. So you're going to be paying multiple firsts with a prospect or something like that, and you could sell the same way. Like, say you're a rebuilding team, it's going to take you a couple years, or you're rebuilding or retooling, and you need assets. You need multiple pieces. You need swings at the pinata. Joe Mixon, 21.83 ADP, RB9, can get you multiple assets that you can gamble on that help you, that are promising, that are higher in value, to help you reset. That's a gamble, but you're also gambling that once your team's rebuilt, that he's still performing for you, or performing for multiple years after that. That's still a gamble as well. So you may want to look at him as a sell. Also, he's a buy because you got a high-end producing running back who is going to be productive for a few more years on a very good team, getting a lot of touches, being used in the passing game. You're not seeing many running backs like that in the NFL, and you're getting them at RB9 value in startup drafts. That is a very good deal. That is very good price point for a player like that. He should be valued a little higher. I think the age, once you look at that on paper, kind of scares people. His 2020 season was very riddled with injuries. It was pretty much non-existent, and that might still be in the back of people's minds, but that's going to happen with any running back. There's very few running backs in the NFL that don't have seasons like that. That's just part of the game too. Injury-riddled seasons, that's just part of it. Joe Mixon was healthy last year, looked good, was productive. All signs point to him being productive in 2022. But let me know in the comments what you think. Who are you buying this month? Who are you selling this month? What's your strategy to build your Dynasty team? Make sure you hit that like button on the way out. Really helps the video and the algorithm. And if you haven't hit subscribe, why not? I'm pumping out Dynasty vids to help you out. I've got them videos of clips from training camp, OTAs, minicamp, whatever I can find. Random vids of them working out, whatever. Players that I find doing things on the field, whether it's working out, doing drills, whatever. I try to share them so you got them. Sometimes those are hard to find. But I want to thank you for watching the show, and I'll catch you next time.